Alright, what's up, YouTube? Just wanted to hop on real quick, do a little live stream. Um, just gonna wait a couple minutes and see. Still figuring this whole thing out. So, I don't know, I'm gonna try to do this week's in case you missed it. It's been a lot of stuff going on. Yesterday, had the city council meeting. I really felt like it was I wouldn't even say lukewarm reception. Um, and if that was any kind of reception at all, like it was just pretty much blank faces. It was, I don't know, it was a little frustrating, but I look at it like practice, and I will be going back there again to talk to the city council and the mayor of Joliet regarding Bruce Carter. He was fatally shot February 6th by an undercover detective in his own home. So, they need to probably reevaluate how they use their lethal force and maybe have some other types of options, maybe some other kinds of training. There's a police force not too far from here. It's one of the neighboring towns. They were in the newspaper and they were training using beanbag shotguns. So that is a less lethal option. It could also help people uh, basically just stay alive. Everybody gets to go home or get to court date. Um, so that's what's going on there. They just had the elections. Well, there's just elections for a lot of places. They did some city council, and people voted on referendums. You know, Voting is pretty important, and I can understand why people are a little bit disenchanted with voting because it seems like no matter who you vote for, Democrat or Republican, they don't seem to have the common voters' interest in mind. And they'll tell you what you need to hear, what you want to hear um, around campaign time so they can get that vote. And then after they secure the vote, here comes all the things that they said that they weren't going to do. Um, so I could definitely see the frustration. And there's a really big difference in criminal justice in this country. Um, Two states are pretty much leading the way in letting inmates cast a vote. It's very important that people maintain those types of basic rights. You can vote or not vote, but at least having the option is it's crucial. States like Texas are trying to create legislation to lock people up that accidentally vote. So you could, have made a mistake and you voted, and they will lock you up for about 5 years behind that. And that's just to scare people off. They're using those kinds of scare tactics to scare people away from the polls. Um, we really need, well, I mean, if you if you're not happy with the way your local government is being run, then voting and getting people in office, that's the course of action. That's what we got to do. So that's been going on. I've been watching a lot of, well, not really like I'm watching it, but I can't help but to catch some of it. And they were protesting the the state's attorney out here, well, in Chicago, Kim Fox. The Fraternal Order of Police was down there protesting over Jussie Smollett. And I shouldn't have to do a backdrop on who that is because I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Jussie Smollett is. Um, and the real thing is that you know, they're not going to indict him, and so the police are kind of mad about that. But they're not mad about the 50 plus unsolved homicides that have been going on. In fact, Chicago has one of the lowest clearance rates for murder. It's around a little bit less than 20%. So, in comparison, other major metropolitan cities have a clearance rate of 50 to 75%. Let that sink in a little bit. So, it's not that it's a crime problem, it's really a crime solving problem. It doesn't even really seem like they attempt to solve the crimes. I've watched a few videos, and just, I mean, all my family lives in Chicago pretty much, but just knowing people from out there, and I really don't think that they even try to really solve crimes. It's a shame too. They got red lights, cameras, and all kinds of stuff, but you mean to tell me that somebody's going around dumping bodies in dumpsters and setting them on fire and stuff like that, or whatever have you, and they have no clue? Then there's some experts, some forensics experts that have been looking at the situation also, um, because statistics are a kind of funny thing. The way that they didn't even start looking at the clearance rates until a little while, and some places don't even really log their clearance rates of major crimes. But the city of Chicago, they it's kind of I just shaking my head. I just They just worry about the wrong stuff. It seems like statistics horrible. Yeah, that's pretty much what's been. And another thing in case you missed it, I know y'all seen the Notre Dame church burning down. Um, if you're looking for me to be sad about that, I'm not. Um, yeah, the Catholic Church is worth about $30 billion, so I don't really think they need donations. But they already received so many donations from the 1% in France. That's where Notre Dame Cathedral is located. That they could have ended homelessness. But the donations that came in, because there was a structure on fire, they could have helped people get off the streets. So just let that sink in. There's major corporations that donated millions of dollars. Meanwhile, the people of Flint had to wait 5 years for them to start working on a solution for them to get clean drinking water. And it's not just clean drinking water, it's, not poisonous drinking water. I just shaking my head. Um, mm Back to the serial killer in Chicago. I watched some videos about it, and there were some experts, and they compiled together their data, and it just really, the experts don't even, I don't know. There's a pretty good series. It's on Vice. They do a lot of videos. It's a Facebook thing, Vice News, but they do a lot of stuff like that. So if you guys want to check that out. Also, a great series that I've been watching, in case you missed it. It's on BET. It's called Finding Justice. And the first episode is pretty much, it really highlights where I am in advocating for Bruce Carter. Um, Bruce Carter was my best friend for about 18 years. And this year, he was shot in his house. And just to do a real quick backstory on that. Okay, the headlines from that week read it started out, if you follow the headlines, there was a bank robbery and a shootout. And so then after the shootout, the headlines changed that the police were investigating a bank robbery, and they called Bruce Carter the suspect that they were investigating. They said that he attacked an officer with a knife. And then if you look for more headlines, it changed from a knife to a box cutter. And actually there's a Facebook video of someone. They did a live video on that day, right in front of the house, Bruce Carter's house, with the police line, the police tape all, they had it all taped off and stuff. Uh, they said that they got their information from the police that there was a shootout, and if it wasn't for the cars that had been in the area, that the cops would have been shot because the suspect was shooting. And they never recovered any type of gun because my friend didn't have any guns or anything like that. But then again, they just took a dump all over his Second Amendment. If he had chosen to have a gun, he could, or maybe somebody in his household was a legal gun owner, maybe. I don't know. That's just, a hypothetical thing. But of course, there was no gun recovered. There was no shootout. Not at all. What happened is Bruce Carter, he walks to work at about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. It's February and we're near Chicago, so it was about 0 degrees outside, and he is a very hardworking man. He walks to work. That day was his payday, and so he collected his paycheck and he took the bus to the bank, and that's where pretty much everything just went down from there. Um, they released his image. The bank released his image of him in the bank, standing at the counter, and it's not a video, it's just a picture. So they basically tried to criminalize him being inside the bank, saying, that he might have done something, when in fact he was there cashing a check or inquiring about maybe opening up an account. Because I know me and him had just had that conversation um, in the recent, weeks before his death, his murder. So they just show up at his house because he was at the bank. How would they know where he lived if he wasn't there on official business? 2 hours after the robbery, almost, and they shoot him pretty much as soon as they got there. I know they didn't have any type of conversation or anything. And my friend wasn't the type of person that would fight police. He's not the type of person that would rob a bank. But they made up this whole story that he robbed the bank, or he was a suspect of robbing the bank. And first, he robbed the bank, then it was a shootout. And then, they say he maybe robbed the bank and, tried to attack the officer. None of that is true. And the bank still hasn't released any information about the robbery, like the video or how much money was taken, because, like I said, my friend had just cashed his check, and the amount of money in his wallet is consistent with somebody cashing a paycheck. So then there's that. Subsequently, after that, there's just been so many agencies dropping the ball, really. I was even kind of disappointed with the coroner report. Honestly, I thought that they could have done more testing. There was no mention of testing his clothes. Also, in the coroner's report, there's no gunpowder on his wounds. There's no stippling on his wounds, and that the coroner had notated on all 4 gunshot wounds that they are not from close range firing. So it indicates that the officer fired from a distance, and we're talking about an enclosed area. You know, um, inconsistencies such as the chief of police of Joliet released a statement about, I think it was February 8th, and they still left it up there last time I checked. They said that two brave officers went to the home, and while they were engaged with a female inside, they said that Bruce Carter attacked them and he was shot. And so then in the coroner report, it said that they arrived at Bruce Carter's residence and he came outside and he was shot. So there's a real difference there. I mean, several people read it, and at first they didn't even really catch the difference. People don't even really catch that. But the story changed again. That's just another story change. There was no shootout. Number one, they didn't watch the bank tape because that would have showed them right there that he didn't rob the bank. So there's that. I don't know. They declined to do the press release twice. They were supposed to. One of the city councilmen told me they were going to schedule a public get together to discuss what had happened, and they declined to do that as well. There's just so many things. There's just so many things that went wrong there. But when we went there, this is my third time going there, and we went there. I went there in March. That was the first city council. It was a city council lunch, and they scheduled it at this fancy Victorian mansion. And it's the kind of place where they set out the silverware, and you gotta try to remember which is your salad fork kind of places. So I paid $45, to go there to be able to have some type of face-to-face meeting with the local politicians. And it was a public speaking event, but I was not allowed to speak at the podium. So I just went to different tables, at the appropriate time when everybody was mingling. And I went and introduced myself to several of the city council members. And that was the first time I went. So then the second time I went to the city council meeting, as soon as I went there with a couple YouTubers, and I really appreciate these guys. They're really awesome. As Nyla says, and Taz exclusives. They've been covering the Bruce Carter story pretty much from jump. I went there with them, and when we walked into the city council meeting at the beginning of April, they shut it down. Like, we sat down, my seat wasn't even warm yet, and they adjourned the meeting right then and there. So then I knew that I had to come back to this one, which was yesterday, and I did have finally a chance to speak. And I can't even say that I was met with resistance, but there was no response. So no response is also a response. I just dropped the phone, but I just it's the first time I got to speak there, so I'm gonna have to go back and maybe ask some other questions. I'm gonna ask some questions, and hopefully they can answer them. That would be really helpful. That would be really, really helpful. And we're about done right now. It's about 19 minutes, and I was long-winded on that one. Oh yeah. So in case you missed it, today a rental company reported thefts of Mercedes-Benz vehicles. I'm not exactly sure how many, but it's around the city of Chicago. So, they're looking at all those Benzes real hard. Be careful out there. Let's see. Yeah. And Alabama continues to be the armpit of America. There should be no surprise there. They just now are trying to enact laws to make sure that female prisoners have access to hygiene products, feminine care products for the time of the month, as if that is some sort of surprise. But I don't know, you'd be surprised or you wouldn't be surprised if you look at the comments of the people. Some people think that because the women are in jail that they don't deserve access to a toilet. Um, and some people are just as disgusted with whoever is running the place because that's just some crooked stuff right there. Um, let's see what else. What else? What else? What else? Yep. So if you're riding around in the Benz and from the hood, you better get off. You better get rid of those cars because the police taking everyone to jail. And let's see. This is a good thing to mention. People from the Muslim community are donating to those black churches that were burned down in Louisiana. So big ups to the Muslim community. Really appreciate that because nobody else cares. But thank you for caring. Yesterday I sat there in that city council meeting, and before I got up for public remarks, they had a few things on the agenda, and basically, they just closed the little water park out there in Joliet, and it served about I forgot how many residents, probably about 50,000 or maybe it's a lot of people. Like they just closed this water park out there. And the park district actually operated on a $180,000 loss last year. They operated at a deficit. And yet you have these city council members that hmm, here, let me just read this for you. However, the Joliet Park District continues to budget and improve perks like travel, training, subscriptions, and new uniforms amounting close to 6 digits for staff and elected commissioners. So, you have your elected officials, and here they are sucking up the income, and then you have the people from the park district, and I'm not even talking about like the people like the upper management. We're talking about like the just the daily operations people coming in, talking to city council, thinking that that's going to get them to save their jobs when actually the city council people are the ones that are sucking up their income and using it for things like travel and vacations and new uniforms and subscriptions, and it amounts to 6 figures. And if they weren't doing that, then they would be able to keep open the park district for the 50,000 people or plus that use that facility. And it was really sad to sit there and watch that and realize that I have to get up there and talk about my friend's death or murder rather. So it's like life in one of those sundown towns, from the Jim Crow era or something. So that's the kind of stuff that's going on. Oh, yes, and in case you missed it, in the Sun Times, I think it was today, Sun Times, top cop in Chicago admits something. It's pretty shocking. He admits that some officers, get ready for this, hope you're sitting down. Some officers look the other way when it comes to police misconduct. All right, that's sarcasm. But yeah, they are for real about that. So yeah, that's police culture for you, and it's horrible. They're the people who are supposed to uphold the law, and here they are, doing a lot of the crimes, and then looking the other way, and they mad about Jussie Smollett. Like they need to get out there and catch them people, catch the serial killers. There's people dying. They're worried about the guy who might or might not have beat himself up. Like I really forget. So, I think I'm gonna wrap it up now. No, 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 no. Here, This is my last one for today. All right, I don't know. Y'all probably don't even know. I wish I knew how to do a split screen. Is it? Oh, y'all can see this. All right. Anywho, so here we come up on the anniversary. It's like 20, 21 years. 20. It's like 20 years now. The 20-year anniversary of Columbine. And here we have this domestic terrorist, a female. She's white. They've had to close down all the schools in Denver because this wacky lady was making threats, and she's actually only 18 years old, so she's not old enough to even know how bad Columbine was and how much of a tragedy it is, and it kind of almost goes to show how desensitized today's young people are. But yeah, a the headline says it's a manhunt for a woman. Well, good luck finding her because they're hunting a man. But yeah, domestic terrorist. I don't even know her. Oh wait, Soul Pays. That's her name. Soul. SOL. Soul Pays. All right. Domestic terrorist. Soul Pays. I'm gonna go ahead and end this live stream on that. But don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We're on Bobo Teabaggins channel right now. You could also find me on Melissa Facts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will sub back. I'll subscribe back too. But you don't have to have a channel for me to, for you guys to like it or subscribe. So go ahead and let me know what you think. All right. Thanks, guys.